Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. A few videos ago, I made a comment that 2019 is turning out to be like any other year. And I cited a few examples. I said the violence still goes on, like in New Zealand. You know, our politicians and governments around the world are doing nothing to help solve the ecological problem that we're having, right? People still go to bed hungry every day. People still have to make tough decisions about their health care or rent or food and so forth. And from a certain perspective, I think that's true. Now, you might ask, why am I bringing that up again? I'm not trying to rehash it, and I certainly am not disappointed about the way 2019 is turning out. I'm kind of disappointed about the pollen this year in the South because it's been really whooping me this year. But that being said, I'm kidding about that. But that being said, I was never really disappointed about 2019. In fact, I was saying those things because I think that 2019 is going to be a banner year of change. It just hasn't happened as of April of when I'm recording this video. So I am saying this also because I was in the middle of recording a video for my channel about Maitreya making 3 predictions in the 80s. He made several predictions in the 80s that were published in Share International magazine. But the 3 that I was talking about, one was the release of Nelson Mandela and the ending of apartheid. The other one was the coming economic crash. And then the third one, which kind of triggered this whole video, was the fall of the Berlin Wall and the ending of the Cold War. He made that prediction before anybody ever thought it was possible. And then a few months after he made the prediction and it was published in Share International, it actually happened. Now, hindsight's 2020. I've been on radio interviews where the announcer or the host says, "Oh, of course the Berlin Wall was going to come down. Of course the Cold War was going to end." And it always makes me laugh when people say that, because if you live through it, now this host actually happened to live through it. I don't know why he said it, because if you have any kind of memory of that time, that's not what people thought. I had teachers in high school, certain family members telling me that Russia and the United States would never get along. The Cold War would never end. That it was going to stay the same or maybe even get worse. Maybe we were going to kill ourselves once and for all. Maybe third time was the charm, right? The first time that we could have destroyed ourselves was actually when the Berlin Wall came up. The second time was, of course, the Cuban Missile Crisis. We came very, very close to destroying ourselves then. And maybe just one other little thing was going to cause the whole thing to go up and blow up in our face, right? And wipe us all off the planet. But it didn't. We survived. At least that portion of our tense history. And, it was so tense back then. There's a family story that my mom told me, that my grandfather, her father, who was the sweetest, most law-abiding citizen you would have probably met in your life, when he was when my grandmother and my grandfather were in Berlin visiting and touring, he wanted to take a picture of the Berlin Wall. And there was a East European soldier that pulled his gun on him and told him not to take a photo. And my grandfather lifted up his hands, like he's surrendering, and snapped a photo of it. And this guy never knew he did it. Now, my grandfather never sped, or if he did, he would actually tell the cop how fast he was going. I mean, to have my grandfather do something that crazy was out of character for him. But I'm saying this to prove a point. It was a very, very tense time for on both sides. And if it wasn't for the help of Maitreya and the masters and the Space Brothers and politicians around the world and concerned citizens and so forth on both sides of the planet, and Russia and the United States, working tirelessly to keep us from destroying ourselves. And then, of course, after the Berlin Wall came down, the entertainment president, Ronald Reagan, made his famous tear down the wall speech, which made him look like a rooster claiming credit for the dawn, and then he tried to kind of paint it like the United States won. Well, when I lived through it, living here in the United States, I never viewed that the United States won. I never viewed it as a victory for capitalism. It was a victory for the world. It was like a weight was lifted off our shoulders. And if you lived through it, you might have remembered it like that. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But it relieved such a tension. I didn't realize how much we lived in that kind of fear, in that kind of tense environment, that we thought that the Russians were going to attack us at any moment, you know, and yet it never did. And when the Berlin Wall came down, you know, thousands of people were sitting on top of that wall that my grandfather couldn't even take a photo of just a few years ago without possibly getting shot at. Thousands of people rushed across the demilitarized zone to be reunited with family members that they hadn't spoken to for decades. Because, and some of these family members lived right down the block, and it was just the block was, or the street had been cut off by the Berlin Wall. I mean, it was a crazy time that we lived in, you know, and it was even crazier when the whole change happened. It happened so fast. It swept through Europe. I mean, it was crazy. And that's kind of the point of me putting this video up. So I was in the middle of doing this video about this prediction, and I started thinking about this year, and I was like, you know what? I think 2019 is going to be a banner year of change. I mean, the Christ, the one awaited by all the world's religions, a teacher for people who aren't even religious, a master of the masters, is already living out in the world, already giving interviews on TV. He's not working through people like Benjamin Creme anymore. He's speaking directly to humanity. I mean, his information and his solutions must be very muted and very watered down because people aren't recognizing him. Of course, he's not claiming to be the Christ or whatever, right? But he's the X factor for change. And then the other thing I was thinking of was, historically, Maitreya left the Middle East and Pakistan and then flew to England on July 19th, 1977. And July 19th, 1977 is definitely not a day that lives in anybody's memory. You know, I grew up in South Carolina, so there's a pretty good bet that July 19th was hot and humid, you know. But it was a day like any other day for me. I had no clue what happened. But yet, historically, the Christ fulfilled the biblical prediction that he would be coming down through the clouds. A day that people were waiting for in anticipation for centuries. Hands down, probably the return of the Christ in the modern world, that for the last 2,000 years is the single biggest event that's ever happened. And yet there was no news coverage of it. It just happened. Maitreya, that's his style. That's the way he works. He doesn't create a fuss. He's not about pomp and circumstance or any kind of mystical kind of event like that. Very down to earth, very practical, you know, and yet it happened. So there could be great changes going on right now that I'm unaware of and you're unaware of and the whole world's unaware of. So, you know, for me to say and come on here to say that it's turning out to be like any other year, I could be very wrong. You know, these changes could be going on right now. And I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about it, you know. And so that was the point about this video. So look for the changes. We might actually see some great changes. 2019 might be a banner year. But we have to, and as always, take action. Help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos. Have a great day.